Wake up, Lori. Please, wake up. I was pleading with my wife. Stay back, please, sir, Dr. Davidson told me sternly. She's been in a diabetic coma for 5 days, and most people don't make it beyond this point. She doesn't have long to go, and I recommend you start planning for a future without her. Hot tears rolled down my face, and I started sobbing as it dawned on me I was going to lose my wife.
I felt crushed with guilt and remorse as I remembered the times we fought. And I wanted to remember all the good times instead, the times we laughed and we joked together.
The times we'd strolled down the beach at sunset on vacation hand in hand. How happy we felt as we held our grandchild for the first time. Those wonderful family Thanksgiving dinners filled with joy and laughter. And the day we got married, it was the best day of my life. Now her life was about to come to a cruel and painful end without her dream of seeing her grandkids grow up and graduate.
Well, the doctor told us that she had little hope of pulling out of her diabetic coma, and if she did, the nerve damage would make her life a living hell. We'd never get to go on that beautiful trip to Europe that we've been saving for, and what hurt most was that I never got a chance to say goodbye. All those happy moments, all those dreams, gone.
As she lay there in the hospital bed with tubes up her nose, I suddenly felt angry and bitter at all the unfairness of it all. My wife, Lori, a proud mom of 3 and a grandmother to 7, a woman adored by her family, her local community, her church, and her friends, a woman who'd always helped out those less fortunate, was about to end her life in brutal pain and misery. But mostly I was mad at the medical establishment. We did everything they told us. How could it be that my wife was now moments from death? Was I supposed to just accept it? These were the darkest days of my life. Yet, strangely, what happened was also a gift from above, because it forced us on an unusual journey where we discovered a 3-minute ritual which starts reversing diabetes type 2 from the very first time you take it. This simple once-a-day ritual helped free my wife from the vice-like grip of high blood sugar, curbing her cravings and melting off 61 pounds in weeks. Going from this to this. This 3-minute ritual, discovered in the northern hills of Thailand, transformed her entire life, lowered her high cholesterol levels, enhanced her heart health, her inner energy, her vitality, and self-esteem, allowing her to melt every last pound of clinging fat and feel great about her body again, in the process saving us a fortune in medical expenses. What's more, this same 3-minute ritual reversed every one of my friend Tom's diabetes type 2 symptoms, blasted away 40 pounds of fat from his belly, and revived his vigor, drive, and energy, giving him a second shot at youth.
We also discovered the true cause of diabetes type 2 has nothing at all to do with your diet, family history, age, or how much you exercise.
Instead, according to breakthrough research by Harvard Medical School doctors and the Journal of Korean Medical Science, it's an invisible inflammatory agent that assaults your internal organs as you sleep at night, spiking your blood sugar and causing uncontrollable cravings the next day. This invisible agent is linked to almost every case of type 2 diabetes in the world, yet no doctor talks about it. The good news is that with this simple daily ritual, you can shut it down and start reversing type 2 diabetes in weeks.
You're probably feeling skeptical about what I'm telling you right about now, and I get it, believe me. After all, most people will tell you that diabetes type 2 is caused by your diet or even your family history. And they'll tell you that there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, I felt skeptical too until I saw the power of this ritual and the scientific proof behind it. Well, 1 minute, just give me 1 minute, stay with me, and you'll see how it works, and you will understand everything.
In a few minutes, I'll share this diabetes-reversing ritual with you. I'll show you the evidence of the deep corruption anchored at the dark heart of the diabetes industry. I'll also show you how this innocent slice of birthday cake nearly sent my wife to an early grave. This tip alone could save your life. And best of all, when you do what I show you at the end of this video, you'll see exactly what to do to reverse your diabetes type 2 in weeks, like my wife Lori did. Can you imagine being completely free of diabetes type 2?
How would it feel to never need to take your diabetes meds or prick your finger ever again? Oh, what a relief it would be. Like a huge weight lifted from your shoulders, huh?
Imagine waking up in the morning, jumping out of bed full of energy, and seeing your blood sugar at a stable 90 to 100 every day, or the look of sheer amazement on your doctor's face as he reads your health report and confirms you're free of diabetes type 2. Imagine having the energy to play all day long with your kids or grandkids. Starting with this one simple change, all of this could be possible. And you could be looking in the mirror to see a younger, slimmer, visibly toned and diabetes-free body in weeks from now. And the part I love most, enjoying all those delicious foods, including carbs like pasta and potatoes and tasty desserts, without feeling guilty. Wouldn't that be great? If that sounds good to you, pay close attention and hang on to every word I say, because the 3-minute ritual I'm about to reveal has now freed 33,432 other men and women from deadly high blood sugar. Former diabetics such as Joe Marsden, 57, from Massachusetts, who says, "If it wasn't for your life-saving solution, I'd have ended up dead. Instead, here I am with steady blood sugar and all my symptoms of diabetes type 2 gone. I sleep so good, I wake up energetic, and I've lost 50 pounds. I feel like I've reversed the age clock by 20 years. Or Sally Hatchett from Florida, who says, "I'm so glad I stayed and heard the story about how your wife reversed her type 2 diabetes, especially the end part where you showed me exactly how to do it for myself. I was skeptical about using this ritual, but to my shock, it worked better and faster than anything else, and I've tried every medication, supplement, and diet there is. The day I found my blood sugar was healthy and the doctor told me I didn't have diabetes anymore, I threw my meds in the garbage and went out for the most delicious meal with my husband to celebrate. Thank you so much for changing my life." These are real people like you, fathers, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers, brothers and sisters who were crippled by high blood sugar until they found this video. You're about to see exactly how they reversed their diabetes type 2. Make sure to watch this video right now because it could be removed at any moment. The powerful diabetes industry is furious about it because what I reveal could destroy their easy profits.
Now listen closely to every word and remove all distractions. The unconventional system I'm about to share with you has nothing to do with medication, supplements, restricted diets, exercise, or even your pancreas. No, you've never seen it before because it's something completely different that happens at night when you sleep.
It's something so powerful that affects not only your blood sugar, but also your weight, brain health, hormones, energy, and even your sex drive. So if you've been struggling with diabetes type 2, don't feel bad. It's not your fault. Nobody ever told you about this simple change you need to make to reverse your diabetes type 2. It doesn't matter if you've had diabetes for 20 years or 20 days. If you've tried everything under the sun, or if your blood sugar is completely out of control. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you're 30, 50, or even 80 years old. As sure as the sky is blue on a beautiful sunny day, you can free yourself from the daily torture of diabetes type 2 if you do what I'm about to say.
Now, before we get to how to reverse your diabetes type 2, I guess I should tell you who I am and how I stumbled on this life-transforming solution which saved my wife's life and freed thousands of others from deadly disease. My name is Scott Hansen. I'm 62 years old, and I work as a safety expert for military equipment. I'm happily married to my wife, Lori, living outside Tucson, Arizona. And maybe you're wondering why I'm sharing my shocking story with you.
Well, I'm no different from you or many other regular folks. I just happened to hit rock bottom and almost lose my wife to diabetes type 2. And right now, I feel it's my duty to share this ritual so every other suffering diabetic can see exactly how to free themselves from deadly high blood sugar. See, when Lori was diagnosed diabetic, it was a big shock to us. We didn't see it coming. I mean, she was a few pounds overweight, but who isn't these days? But we figured if she took her meds every day, it'd be fine. We could live a normal life and be happy. After all, we'd always put our trust in doctors. I guess you could say we were brought up that way. So we did what our doctor told us from day one. Lori took her meds and watched what she ate. She stayed active and exercised twice a week. She did everything right, but for her, nothing seemed to work. Her glucose levels were constantly erratic. Then, to our dismay, 2 years later, Lori's blood sugar started to skyrocket. That's when she began to suffer from nerve pain and tingling in her hands and feet. Her vision degenerated to the point where typing an email on her laptop gave her a splitting headache. And worst of all, she didn't have the energy anymore. She felt exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. It got so bad that we had to restrict her time with the grandkids, not only because it made Lori tired, but because her erratic blood sugar began to attack her immunity. It was like she'd become a magnet to colds and viruses. Lori would catch a cold from our granddaughter and spend 2 weeks knocked out in bed. One time she ended up in hospital after a bad dose of flu. "Why can't Grandma come play with us anymore?" Our granddaughter Eleanor would cry and cry for hours. She was too young to understand, but deep down she knew something was very wrong with Grandma. Lori tried dieting, but she soon became sick of the boring salads and low-carb meals. She dreamed of eating a delicious dinner at a restaurant, and who can say they've never felt that way too? When Lori had a bad day and felt sad, she'd treat herself to a large ice cream caramel dessert. What was the point in living if she couldn't enjoy her food anymore, she said. But then she'd feel guilty, ashamed, and sick with anger at herself for falling off the wagon. She felt weak. She knew it was wrong to give in to the cravings that skyrocketed her blood sugar levels, but Lori was helpless. These cravings controlled her. She could hardly walk past a bakery without treating herself to a sticky bun. Every time we asked our doctor how we could somehow curb her cravings to lower blood sugar, we were met with a blank expression. "I'm increasing your medication," he would say. And with that increase came the bloating, the fatigue, weight gain, terrible sleep, and even stronger cravings that ballooned Lori up to a whopping 220 pounds. Her nerve pain, vision, and fatigue worsened month by month until her life became a misery. She was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and that meant even more meds with more side effects. She felt like a burden, an annoyance to her family and friends who had to change their dinner and weekend plans to fit her needs. She couldn't even walk up a hill. She was terrified that diabetes, Alzheimer's, stroke, or heart disease would take her life, or would it be something worse? One night she woke up screaming from a nightmare that doctors wanted to hack her foot off. Like so many other type 2 diabetics out there, she didn't want that nightmare to become her reality, to become another statistic. She felt like a fading shadow of the bright, energetic woman she used to be. She missed the old Lori, the healthy, happy Lori, who could fit into her clothes, because all she was faced with now were mounting medical expenses that made her feel guilty. Even if our life savings were pouring down the drain, I told her it didn't matter, that I'd do anything for her, and I wasn't ready to lose her.
But inside, I was burning with rage at the medical establishment. After 7 years of seeing my wife take her pills and watching what she ate, I started to suspect something was deeply wrong with this picture. Lori's diabetes was now much worse than it was just a few years earlier, and yet we'd spent $71,500 on treatment.
All we got in return was nausea, bloating, bad sleep, low energy, and cravings that made her life unlivable. As her weight ballooned and the side effects from medication became debilitating, it was almost the last straw when the doctor told Lori she needed to inject insulin every day. But it would take the worst day of our entire lives to lead us to the solution that finally transformed Lori's life by reversing her diabetes type 2 in a matter of weeks. And this is what happened. It was our granddaughter Eleanor's 5th birthday party, and it was a big deal in our family. All our relatives were invited to attend, as well as Eleanor's friends, our neighbors, and friends of family. It was a beautiful summer's day, and everything was set for a perfect party and barbecue in their big backyard. Lori was super excited about this event and had been looking forward to it for months. She was up early that day, helping prepare food and games for the kids. At first, she seemed fine, but as the morning wore on, I saw her looking unsteady on her feet a couple of times. I tried to get her to take it easy, but she insisted on keeping going. Lori loved her granddaughter so much, and she couldn't let her little girl down. But by the time the birthday cake came out, she looked pale as a sheet. I thought maybe her blood sugar was low, so I got her a slice of birthday cake, thinking it would boost her energy. "I think I need to take a little walk," she told me after eating her cake, trying hard to keep a brave face. Yet, before she'd taken 2 steps, her eyes rolled back in her head, and she collapsed like a sack of stones, smashing her head on a garden statue. I was in complete shock. It was like a horror movie scene unfolding before me. It seemed like everything was moving in slow motion. "Call 911, I shouted. Lori was still breathing, but blood was oozing from her temple and she was out cold. "Stay with us, Lori," I cried. Our granddaughter was screaming in the background, and our guests were in a panic as the ambulance crew arrived. We gave them space, but it didn't look good. You could see the paramedics' worried looks as they loaded her on the stretcher and carried her into the back of the ambulance. They took off immediately, lights flashing and sirens wailing. In a panic, I drove to ER as fast as I could. Lori was already in an isolated room with doctors and nurses surrounding her. "Is it serious?" I asked the doctor, terrified, and what he said next hit me like a freight train. "It's not her head injury we're concerned about, sir. Your wife is in a deep diabetic coma. Her blood sugar levels were above 600 when she came in. It's not looking good at all." I stood there, dumbfounded, feeling like I'd been punched in the face. I was the idiot that gave her the cake that tipped her blood sugar over the edge. Now she was in intensive care with only hours left to live. It was all my fault.
I don't remember much of what followed except nervously waiting in the hospital, crushed with guilt for what I'd done. I was mad at myself, barely eating or sleeping. And it hit our family hard, too. They were calling me every hour for news. Our grandchildren, they were stressed out at school. They love their grandma so much.
I had to wait 5 days until I was finally allowed in to visit. Dr. Davidson told me to keep a distance. I couldn't even hold her hand and tell her I loved her. He told me that if she didn't die soon, she may never awake from her coma. I may need to decide to switch off her life support myself. That's when, staring into the abyss, alone in the hospital at 2:30 a.m., with my eyes red from tears, I knelt down and prayed. I prayed for forgiveness for not taking better care of my wife. I prayed for strength for finding my way out of this black hole. And most of all, I prayed for my wife's life. And after a minute, it suddenly became clear to me that if Lori did get through this and survive, I had two choices.
One, well, I could keep trusting the medical system and the doctors and hoping that somehow a new breakthrough was around the corner for diabetes. Although trusting this broken system had left my wife only inches from death. Two, or I could choose to fight this myself and seek out the root cause of my wife's disease and beat it.
This was a long shot, but I knew deep down it was possible. And right there, as I was kneeling in the waiting room praying, a voice from deep inside of me told me this was my only choice. From that moment on, one thing was sure. I'd never, ever let my wife down again.
And even though I didn't know it, we were about to stumble on to the mind-blowing ritual that reversed Lori's diabetes type 2 and transformed her entire life.
Incredibly, Lori woke up 2 days later. Maybe it was God's way of saying her mission in life wasn't complete. I was the first to see her as the tears rolled down my cheeks, and I told my wife I loved her over and over again. She needs another few weeks in hospital, Dr. Davidson warned me privately afterwards. I'm sorry to say, sir, but she may still not make it. Please don't get your hopes up. Well, you can imagine his words hit me like a ton of bricks. But as I headed home, I felt like I had a renewed sense of purpose. I'd never felt more focused and determined in my life. I started to urgently search the web for something, anything, that could help. Over the next 2 weeks, I spent every minute I had trawling through research online. I signed up to medical sites to hunt down information on diabetes. I called up universities to question them about research they'd published. I searched through exhausting reports of trials, but I found nothing new that I didn't already know. All the advice I found was about taking your meds and being like every other diabetic. Well, that was the whole point. I didn't want my wife to be like any other diabetic. I mean, according to the National Heart Association, diabetics are at super high risk of sudden death from heart attack or stroke. Medical studies reported that 1 in 5 diabetics need an arm or leg amputated. According to the journal Diabetics Care, over 40% of diabetics have a good chance of losing their eyesight. The more I researched, the more I understood that having high blood sugar is like deep frying your organs in boiling oil. Then there was the shocking corruption in the pharma industry. Between 2014 to 2018, pharma companies spent on average almost $2.2 billion a year paying doctors to promote and push their meds. Some of this money went to buttering up the doctors at restaurants with lavish travel and gifts, like expensive watches. A report in the New York Times discovered that doctors who are paid by pharma companies write over twice as many prescriptions that are on average $50 more expensive. And for the millions of diabetics prescribed insulin, there's more bad news. A 2018 study commissioned by the Congressional Diabetes Caucus found that the price of insulin has doubled since 2012. And in the 10 years before that, the price of insulin nearly tripled. Americans are even heading up to Canada to buy their insulin. Then I researched how diabetes medication actually works. The more I read, the more I realized that diabetes meds don't even address the root cause of the disease. They just help you manage the symptoms. I used to work as a gas line safety worker, and I know that if we don't fix the cause of the gas leak in a building, we're in big trouble. I mean, it would be like having a leaky gas pipe and managing the symptoms by opening the windows and blowing away the gas with a fan. It's the same for diabetes. The risk of death is still super high when you're not addressing the root cause of the disease, not to mention the shocking side effects of these prescription meds. The most common ones are weight gain, cravings, kidney damage, bloating, bad sleep, swelling, and liver damage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure these symptoms make your diabetes much worse, not better. And that's not all. University of Michigan reported on 3 trials where scientists found that medicating older diabetics brought them no benefits at all. At best, they could only expect to live only 3 weeks longer. I was blown away. We were spending tens of thousands of dollars on treatments for little more than debilitating side effects and a maximum 3 weeks extra of life? I felt like we'd been tricked into handing over our hard-earned cash. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anyone should stop their medication, but I do agree with the researchers from the Journal of General Internal Medicine who reported that countless diabetics are being over-medicated. Believe me, shady pharma bosses see their profits as far more important than your well-being. And while this was like a punch to the gut, my research also gave me the glint of hope I needed to keep going and lead me to the incredible diabetes-reversing solution that I'm about to share with you. I stumbled on amazing stories of men and women who'd successfully reversed their diabetes type 2 without using medication in other countries. One example was well-known British politician Tom Watson. He reversed his type 2 diabetes and now feels like $1 million, according to several British news outlets. Another was this lady, who went from being a high-risk type 2 diabetic and taking 4 insulin shots a day to completely reversing her condition without doctors. There were countless more stories I found online, including this one about a 59-year-old man who'd astonishingly reversed his type 2 in 11 days. So I knew people could reverse their type 2 diabetes, yet strangely this breakthrough diabetes news was completely ignored by the media and doctors here in the U.S., who only wanted to push expensive meds on the public. I was sure we could reverse Lori's diabetes type 2, but I felt frustrated as I couldn't see how. One night, when I was exhausted, I was thinking that maybe there was no hope. Little did I know I was only days away from stumbling on this diabetes reversing solution. That same night, I got a text message out of the blue from my old buddy Tom. Tom had gone to live in Thailand 6 months earlier with his new wife. He was back in town for a week and wanted to go for a beer. So that night I went to meet Tom in our favorite bar in town. What I didn't know was that what he was about to tell me would change our lives forever and lead me right to the solution that completely reversed my dear wife's diabetes type 2. When Tom first walked in, I could hardly believe what I was seeing. I was stunned by how much healthier, younger, and more energetic he looked compared to 6 months earlier. He was 63, and before leaving he was 40 pounds overweight and diabetic with heart issues like a lot of our friends. He was resigned to a life of decline and taking his meds, eating boring meals and worrying about his health. I remembered looking at his overweight, diabetic frame back then, thinking he'd never keep up with his younger wife out there. Yet here he was, before me, with a washboard stomach, looking toned, 10 years younger, and super energetic. He'd lost every pound of his ugly belly fat. "You're looking great, Tom," I said. "Listen to this, Scott," he said. "I lost 40 pounds and I feel like a new man. My energy and drive have rocketed. But here's what will really blow your mind. I left the U.S. with 2 months' supply of blood sugar medication, but when I went to get a new prescription, my doctor told me my blood sugar levels are the same as a healthy 40-year-old's. I'm not a diabetic anymore, or even close." At first, I didn't believe it, but I checked with another doctor and he confirmed I'm free of diabetes too. After 5 years of being diabetic, I can finally eat all my favorite foods again because my blood sugar is totally under control. And that's not all. My blood pressure, cholesterol, heart health, and even my eyesight have all improved dramatically. I threw all my meds in the trash, and it felt great. And now at 63, I feel like I'm having a second shot at youth. "Did you follow a super restrictive diet or an intensive workout plan?" I asked him. "Nope, I didn't diet once, and the only exercise I did was walking," he replied. "In fact, I reversed my diabetes and blasted away 40 pounds of fat, all while eating delicious meals. The only real change I made is to drink an unusual local tea each night, and my entire life was transformed. And not just me. Every man and woman in the village where I lived in Thailand and the surrounding areas who drinks the same tea is slim, toned, healthy, and full of energy. They look years younger than their age," he added. "Nobody is overweight, and I mean nobody. And most of these guys have never even heard of diabetes." I felt a little skeptical, almost in disbelief. But how is everyone so healthy, disease-free, and young-looking if it's not diet or exercise-related, I asked. "Well, it may seem hard to believe, but it's all down to this nightly drink," he replied. "In this remote part of northern Thailand, the locals drink this super relaxing tea about 1 hour before bed. Then they drop into a deep, refreshing sleep. According to them, this sleep tea repairs the body, increases metabolism, curbs cravings, and even has some kind of rejuvenating effect. Even if this flew in the face of everything I'd heard about diabetes, I had to find out more. "What's in this relaxing tea?" I asked. But Tom didn't know because even when he'd asked around, his Thai friends out there couldn't tell him the names for the ingredients. He could only tell me that in the past 6 months, he'd been having the best sleep he could remember in his life. By this time, I was hooked. I simply had to get my hands on this diabetes-reversing sleep tea. "Lori may have only days to live," I told him. "You have to help me get the ingredients so she can reverse her type 2 diabetes like you, Tom." Tom knew that being a diabetic is like being on death row, and he could see the desperation in my eyes. Plus, he'd lost his own wife to blood sugar complications a few years ago. "Of course I'll help, Scott," he replied.
And that night, as I headed home, I felt something that, well, I hadn't felt in years. Hope. That my wife could finally reverse her diabetes type 2 after 7 long years of debilitating pain. And then, a week later, I got an email from Tom.
"Hey, Scott," it said, "I've been asking around here, what's in that tea? But nobody can explain it apart from this local doctor. In fact, he's some kind of special doctor who knows exactly why this tea reversed my diabetes type 2. He speaks perfect English because he went to medical school in Europe. So he's the right guy you need to talk to." He included the contact details of the doctor, and you better bet I called Dr. Sukram the minute I got home. To my surprise, he picked up right away. At first, he was reluctant to talk, but after I told him how my friend Tom had reversed his diabetes type 2 with nothing more than the local nightly beverage, he finally agreed to a video call. Once we got connected, I poured out my story about Lori, how her health deteriorated so fast, how close she came to losing her life while in a diabetic coma. I told him about her cravings, her bad sleep, and emotional stress, how she did everything right and still got disastrous results. "Conventional medicine and doctors have failed us," I said. "You're the last chance we've got of saving her, which is why I wanted to ask you about this tea." He listened quietly and didn't say a word. Then, after a long pause, he finally spoke up, and it was like a golden river of information came flowing out. "I'll share the tea formula with you in a minute, Scott," he said. "But first, you have to understand why all your efforts at controlling your wife's blood sugar with diet, medication, and even exercise were a complete waste of time, and why almost everything you've been told about diabetes type 2 is flat out wrong." I was too stunned to speak, so I kept listening. High blood sugar is not so much about the carbs your wife has been eating, and it's not about the sweet and creamy desserts she occasionally enjoyed, and it's not even about lack of exercise. It's about something entirely different, which the diabetes industry will never reveal because they'd lose a fortune overnight if this came out. Research done by Harvard Medical School doctors and the Journal of Korean Medical Science shows diabetes type 2 is far more to do with your sleep. What most diabetic Americans don't know is that the low-quality sleep they are getting makes it impossible to control blood sugar. See, sleep levels have been declining rapidly over the past 15 years. And guess what? Diabetes type 2 levels have been increasing rapidly at exactly the same rate. We are now at the point where 70 million Americans are not getting enough of a certain type of sleep they need most. There are 34 million diabetics in the USA and around 80 million pre-diabetics. It's predicted that half of all Americans will be diabetic or pre-diabetic by 2050. And it's all because they're missing out on a specific phase of deep sleep. Now, it seemed strange to me that diabetes could be related to sleep. I'd never heard that before, and I was pretty skeptical. You're probably feeling that way too. But what Dr. Sukram said next completely floored me. He told me, well, research reveals that there's an invisible inflammatory agent that we're seeing more and more in the bodies of men and women over 40 years of age. It's called cytokine, and it swims around your body causing low but constant levels of inflammation. But the real damage is done when it attacks your sleep. It makes it impossible to reach the deep restorative sleep needed for balancing blood sugar. And when your sleep is impacted, there are three major problems for diabetics. The first one is that your insulin levels go out of whack, and this is because deep sleep is critical for managing blood sugar. In fact, you need deep sleep for your bodies to secrete enough insulin to keep blood sugar levels low. Not enough sleep, not enough insulin. Not enough insulin means you can't lower your blood sugar levels. The second problem is that lack of real sleep floods your body with a powerful cravings hormone called ghrelin. And as you imagine, this cravings hormone generates uncontrollable desires for carbs and sweet foods the next day. Most diabetics get cravings for sweet foods all the time and fall off the wagon. To rub salt in the wound, low-quality sleep increases levels of cortisol in your body. Cortisol is a hormone we all need, but when it's too high, causes you to store fat around your belly, liver, and pancreas. This fat slowly chokes the life out of your internal organs and makes it harder for them to regulate your blood sugar. High cortisol then leads to insulin resistance. This is a huge problem, Scott, because insulin resistance means you can't shift the glucose from your blood to your cells, meaning it stays in your blood, causing high blood sugar. So, to recap, when your sleep is affected, first of all, you can't produce enough insulin to keep your blood sugar low. Second, you get flooded with the cravings that cause you to fall off the wagon. And third, high cortisol causes you to store extra dangerous fat around your internal organs and causes you to become insulin resistant. Is it any surprise your wife and millions of others have diabetes type 2? The truth is, poor sleep quality is turning out to be the new hidden killer and biggest contributor to diabetes type 2 and obesity. In fact, low-quality sleep is as bad for your health as a heavy smoking habit, if not worse. And millions of diabetics have low-quality or shallow sleep, even if lots of them don't know it. You'll never hear about this from the diabetes industry, who are quite happy to keep milking the $300 billion cash cow. What's more, you need deep sleep to repair and strengthen your body, replenish your energy, balance key hormones, rejuvenate your brain, and flush out harmful toxins. Deep sleep is to your body what a full maintenance, oil change, and refueling service is for a car. When you don't get enough, it's like you never give your body a chance to recover and repair. You slowly damage and degrade your vital organs over the years until you eventually start breaking down and needing emergency care. Just like when you never change the oil or maintain your car, it eventually breaks down on you. Studies show that diabetics sleep on average much worse than anyone else. This is because diabetics are more sensitive to the inflammatory cytokine agent I mentioned earlier, caused by pollutants in the air and water that are impossible to avoid. You can't take just any old sleep remedy either. It has to be a specific kind that shuts down the inflammatory cytokine agent. But the good news is you can shut it down with this formula I'm about to give you. I had to admit, I felt a little skeptical about these claims. I mean, they were different to anything I'd ever heard. But at this point, I was ready to try anything to save Lori. So I asked Dr. Sukram to give me the tea formula that reverses diabetes type 2 at night. Let me tell you how it works, he said. This formula is an ancient local brew of herbs and spice from the tribes in northern Thailand. It naturally drops people into the deepest level of sleep. It also helps shut down and get rid of the low-level inflammation cytokines, melts away dangerous fat, and balances blood sugar, he added. That's why everybody around here, right up to 90 years old, is healthy, toned, and young-looking. Nobody has high blood sugar. I'd always thought reversing diabetes type 2 would be hard work and complicated. But then I remembered what my friend Tom had said. When Tom began drinking this tea, he slept deeply every single night. He reversed his diabetes type 2 in a matter of weeks, with minimal dieting and exercise. He even lowered his high blood pressure and cholesterol and peeled off 40 pounds of fat. What's more, every diabetic I knew watched their diet and did everything right, but their blood sugar problems only got worse over time. So if this wasn't the solution, then what else was? The doctor gave me the tea formula, and thanks to his perfect English, he knew the names for all the ingredients. There's one more thing before you get started, Dr. Sukram added before we hung up. For this tea to work super well, your wife has to avoid a few foods that most diabetics eat almost every day. See, diabetics are being told by the diabetes industry to eat more of these fake health foods that secretly spike blood sugar. These foods must be avoided at all costs to fix your wife's high blood sugar. I will send you a list of these. I thanked Dr. Sukram for all his help, and we ended the call. 3 days later, he sent me a booklet with the diabetes reversing formula, a 30-day meal plan, and the list of foods Lori had to avoid for her to get the best results. I was shocked to see the foods inside that booklet that most diabetics believe are healthy, which are secretly rotting the body from the inside. One of these silent killers that was spiking Lori's blood sugar was her morning fruit juice. Her doctor told her that fruit juice was an important part of her diet, so she drank it daily. Yet this juice was quietly spiking her blood sugar as much as a can of sugar-laden soda. There were many other supposedly healthy foods in that booklet that are deadly for diabetics. I felt much better to know what was really causing Lori's high blood sugar. And I know I should have felt excited to have the solution in my hands. But Lori had been let down so many times before. How could I be sure this would be the answer? I decided to check for proof of Dr. Sukram's theory. And here's what I found. According to Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, people who report not getting enough sleep are roughly twice as likely to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. A study done by the University of Chicago found that a bad night's sleep raises morning blood sugar 23% and increases insulin resistance by a massive 82%. And researchers from Columbia University reported that the increase in obesity and diabetes is strongly connected to the rise in sleep deprivation. And here's something I found from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Short sleep duration is associated with greater likelihoods of obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, coronary disease, stroke, frequent mental distress, and death. And another report said that up to 50% of people with sleep disorders aren't actually aware of it, meaning millions of ordinary people are not sleeping right even when they think they are, ruining their health in the process. And finally, Harvard Medical School found a clear link between low sleep quality and the cravings that made it possible for diabetics to stay on track. The good news was to discover that deeper sleep can unleash a huge wave of anti-aging health benefits for diabetics, stuff like energy restoration, cell regeneration, increasing blood supply to muscles, promoting growth and repair of tissues and bones, strengthening the immune system, and even increasing libido. The ingredients in the relaxing tea formula are proven to help people of any age trigger super deep sleep, balance blood sugar, and control cravings. That's down to nutrients called saponins, which help calm the hippocampus region of the brain and shut down dangerous stress. In other words, they shield you from stress and allow you to sleep deeply. In addition to that, I found the formula also contains some incredibly beneficial spices that help balance blood sugar. A study on one of the ingredients found it cuts blood sugar levels by 24% and cholesterol by about 18%. Another nutrient in the tea lowers blood sugar within minutes after consuming it, according to scientific reports. The real magic happens when you combine these ingredients in the right amounts to create a powerful accelerator effect to balance blood sugar and deepen sleep. When you do this, and you steer clear of the deadly foods that are silently spiking blood sugar and inflaming the digestive system, balancing blood sugar becomes a whole lot easier. All of this made me feel very excited about Dr. Sukram's theory.
After 7 years of frustration and my wife being inches from death, I felt a huge wave of relief as I finally had the proof in my hands that she could reverse diabetes type 2.
And I couldn't wait to get her started. The next morning, I went to pick her up from the hospital. Even if I was delighted to see her, it was a shock to see how weak and tired she looked. If I didn't do something fast, she would surely only last a few months longer at most. So that night, I gave Lori the exact tea formula that reversed Tom's diabetes type 2. After 3 days, I could see that she was sleeping deeply and her energy was increasing, but we noticed no change in her blood sugar levels. I started to think maybe it was like everything else she'd tried that had given her false hope. Maybe I was dumb to think it would work. But then, a few days later, something mind-blowing started happening. We checked Lori's fasting blood sugar level, and it had dropped a whopping 65 points to 300. Honestly, I thought it was a mistake. But then, day by day, before my eyes, I saw her readings dramatically dropping. A couple of weeks later, she was down to 240, then 180, then 135, until she finally stabilized at 105. I couldn't believe my eyes. The weight had been dropping off Lori's frame day by day faster than I'd ever seen before. She looked so young and beautiful. The impossible cravings and snacking that caused her to fall off the wagon so many times were gone. And, to my relief, her strength was coming back day by day. Lori's doctor told her that she could stop her insulin injections, and in a few weeks she wouldn't need medication for high blood sugar and high cholesterol. Sure enough, fast forward a couple of months, and she'd lost a total of 61 pounds, with her blood sugar stable at about 95. Her health markers were all in the normal range for the first time in 11 years. Lori's new surge of energy and freedom meant we could live our life again. We started eating out at restaurants and going on date nights. We spent more time with friends. We went on an incredible cruise around Europe last spring and had the time of our life. And best of all, Lori now gets to spend more time with our adorable grandchildren. "Grandma," Eleanor said to her one day, "I always knew you'd get better. One night an angel came down and told me so." She hugged her grandma and told her she loved her. Lori couldn't stop the tears rolling down her cheeks. She felt like the luckiest grandmother in the world. You can imagine how wonderful it felt for her to have this new freedom and lease of life. It was as though she'd rewound the clock by 20 years. She was feeling so energetic. She looked stunning. And most of all, she felt confident and happy about the future. As an added bonus, we were now saving over $15,000 a year in medical expenses. As far as I was concerned, we could have left it there. But as I said, Lori's always been one to care about others. As for her, this meant getting this solution into the hands of as many diabetics as we could. Even if this formula saved a single life, it'd be worth it, she said. I had to agree. So we made it our mission to share this system to help other diabetics reverse their type 2 diabetes like Lori did. We decided this protocol had to do 3 things. First, it had to work for every kind of type 2 diabetic out there. Those who'd had the disease for decades, right down to the newly diagnosed, the pre-diabetic, and anywhere in between. Second, it had to be simple. I know people are busy, and we'd need to present the steps in a super clear, easy-to-follow way. And third, it had to be backed up with scientific proof. I knew this was vital to show the more skeptical diabetics that this solution really does work for them and is proven by science. We needed some help to put the program together, so we shared our story on social media. The next day, we were lucky enough to be contacted by medical researcher and nutrition expert Michael Redson. Michael had a personal interest in helping anyone with diabetes type 2, as his brother had lost his eyesight to the disease a few years earlier. He had 30 years' experience of working in nutrition and natural medicine, and it made him the ideal fit. And together, using Dr. Sukram's formula and meal plan, we worked hard to create the most powerful diabetes reversing system on the planet. It took 6 months of research, draft after draft, and plenty of sweat until we finally had our system ready. Thanks to Michael's contacts, we were able to find 150 volunteers, men and women, aged from 33 to 81, who all agreed to trial this system. We hadn't expected it, but 93% of volunteers all lowered their blood sugar levels to healthy levels and freed themselves of diabetes type 2. The average weight loss was 32 pounds. How about the other 7%? They lowered blood sugar and lost an average of 19 pounds, which meant that their energy levels increased. They could reduce their meds and improved every one of their health markers.
The results blew our minds. When we saw these astonishing results, well, we decided we couldn't wait any longer to share this system with other diabetics. So we created a clinically proven and all-natural system for lowering blood sugar and reversing type 2 diabetes. And we made it available in a super easy, instantly accessible format.
And because of how closely this system is related to deep sleep, we decided to call it the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy. The most powerful, natural method of controlling blood sugar and reversing diabetes type 2 while you sleep.
Now, this is the exact protocol that reversed my wife Lori's diabetes type 2. The formula which has now helped 33,432 others free themselves from high blood sugar. A formula you can start using in just a few minutes from now and start getting results as soon as tonight.
Here's what folks who tried the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy have to say about it. A few years ago, I was diagnosed as diabetic, and my doctor put me on metformin. But as my dosage increased, I started getting side effects like pains in my kidneys, bad sleep, and bloating. The future was depressing for me. I had nothing to look forward to, and my dream of a happy retirement was dissolving. But then, I was excited to find the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy. It gave me hope. At first, I couldn't believe something this simple would work, but after trying the protocol for 4 weeks, I got my blood sugar down from 185 to 125. Then it took me another few weeks to get down to 112, and it's been stable for 4 months now. I've lost a total of 29 pounds, and I feel so much happier and more energetic. My future has been totally transformed. Rachel, 61, Rochester. And this one's from Mike Villanueva. I've tried it all since my diabetes type 2 began. First, I did the diets and I exercised. I gave up drinking. I took supplements. Even if these methods helped, my blood sugar would also cause me problems again, and my diabetes never went away. When I tried Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy, it was like everything suddenly clicked into place. Clearly, shallow sleep was the biggest cause of my unstable blood sugar, and I had no idea. I reversed my diabetes type 2 just like you said, and I'm enjoying my new life, eating the foods I want and not worrying about anything. Other people out there need to know this really works. Thank you. Mike Villanueva, 58. Here's what you get with the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy. First, you get the Diabetes Reversing Blueprint. In this, you'll find the exact delicious tea formula you'll be taking each night to drop into the deepest and most reinvigorating sleep you've had for years. We've done all the hard work and laid out the easy-to-find ingredients in super easy kindergarten simple steps. We show you exactly how to make the formula yourself, so you'll be up and running in 3 minutes max. This formula balances your blood sugar and cools inflammation in your body, all while you sleep deeply. It's also pretty tasty and enjoyable. And we laid out a number of other super simple steps you need to take to reverse your diabetes type 2. And that's not all. Because even if this scientifically proven formula alone is enough for many men and women to reverse diabetes type 2, we want to deliver as much value as we can and help every diabetic in the world. So I also included a special 5-part video series explaining everything you need to do to reverse your diabetes type 2 to make it super simple for you, making your journey to freedom from high blood sugar so much smoother. 9 bonus special blood sugar balancing drinks to reverse diabetes while you sleep, meaning you'll never run short of delicious diabetes reversing options for every day of the week. Breakthrough diabetes reversing nutrition strategies to switch off and shut down deadly high blood sugar at its source, which means goodbye to those lethal blood sugar spikes and hello to stable low blood sugar all day long. The complete guide to avoiding sneaky blood sugar spiking foods, which 90% of diabetics eat almost every day. And once you avoid these silent killers, controlling your blood sugar becomes a breeze. The delicious carbs you can eat safely at any time, meaning you'll never need to starve yourself or follow a restrictive diet again. The superfood morning shakes that target and destroy the root cause of high blood sugar while curbing your cravings all day long, so you never get tempted by the dangerous processed foods and fall off the wagon again. And the exercise. An estimated 63% of diabetics believe to be healthy, which raises levels of cortisol, the hormone that increases fat storage around the waist and erodes your joints. And when you steer clear of this exercise, you melt abdominal fat much faster. Like I said, the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy is presented with easy-to-follow videos and guides, which will arm you with every tool you need for reversing diabetes type 2, no matter how bad you've had it, and no matter how long. And while that's enough for almost anyone to reverse type 2 diabetes, we've also added the amazing shutdown sequence that drops you into the deepest slumber imaginable. It literally doubles the amount of deep sleep you get each night. The unique carb timing method that lets you safely eat carbs at a certain time to increase your feel-good sleep hormone. How to avoid the terrible sleep killers that are silently destroying your sleep, meaning no more waking up at night. The breakthrough tips that beat snoring and give your partner a break from those nightly disturbances. And so much more. I know this is a lot to take in, but take a second to imagine the feeling of pure joy as your doctor tells you you're free of diabetes type 2, the surge of youthful energy that keeps on increasing daily, the wonderful feeling of confidence as you see yourself in the mirror and notice how toned and young your body looks after losing 20, 30, 40, even 50 pounds. You can relax knowing that each night you drop off into a deep sleep, you'll be reversing diabetes type 2 and lowering bad cholesterol, improving heart health, enhancing your memory, and melting away harmful fat from around your organs. How great is that? And how many happy years could this add to your life? Not to mention the small fortune you'll be saving in medical expenses. All this together can help you live life to your fullest and happiest during your golden years. And you can do all of that when you start with the Diabetes Deep Sleep Remedy tonight. Let me ask you.
So what's it worth to you to be free of diabetes type 2? Oh, to never have to prick your finger, visit a hospital, or stress about everything you eat again. Huh?
You'd probably agree this is an investment you could easily justify when you think how much health, happiness, and prosperity it brings. You can't put a price on your long-term health, well-being, and happiness. Diabetics who tested this solution told us it was worth at least $3,000, and most of them would happily have paid that much for it. And when you think the average diabetic spends over $280,000 in their lifetime just to treat diabetic symptoms, you'd have to agree it'd be worth it. Several $1,000s would be a small price to pay to be free of the deadly consequences of diabetes type 2. But we're not doing this for the money.
You know, we're regular people who went through diabetes hell like you. And Lori's dream is to get this unique diabetes reversing solution into the hands of 10 million diabetics. And to keep this dream alive, all we need is to cover our cost of keeping this solution online.
So I won't ask for thousands from you, or even a very reasonable $997. Heck, I won't even ask for $100. Instead, if you act now, I'll cut the price down to a single low payment of just $37 for your health, protection, and vitality, and a happy long life. All you need to do to get lifetime access is click below to start your order. Fill in your details on the next page, which looks like this, and in 2 minutes, you'll be able to use the exact diabetes reversing protocol that has now helped my wife Lori, Tom, and 33,432 others reverse their diabetes type 2. You'll get instant access to the members area, where you'll be able to access the content on your computer, tablet, or smartphone. You can also print it. Right now, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. This is a special discount price that will not be here for long. Since this video went viral, our costs have tripled, and even if I don't want to, I'll be forced to increase the price very soon. That's why it makes sense to click below and get started now. What's great is Diabetes Freedom is a digital solution, meaning no delays and no delivery issues, no paying for delivery and no waiting around. You get immediate access and start freeing yourself from deadly high blood sugar. And even if this solution costs you little more than $1 a day for the next month,
I know there still might be a skeptical voice inside your head right now telling you that this is too good to be true, or somehow it won't work for you. Which is why I've decided to back up the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy with a rock-solid 12-month guarantee.
You heard that right. You have an entire year to decide if this breakthrough protocol is for you. And if it doesn't bring you back at least 10 times the value of what you've invested, we'll promptly refund every cent. Just contact our friendly customer service team for a hassle-free refund within 48 hours. We provide this unheard-of one-year guarantee because we know that if we are flooded with hundreds of positive testimonials about this system, some folks may still feel skeptical. After all, most people have been told that the only way to treat high blood sugar is to take drugs with harmful side effects that could cost the earth. The diabetes industry has spent billions on marketing TV commercials and giving kickbacks to doctors to promote a false view of the world. They'll never tell you about the tens of thousands of men and women of all ages who have reversed their diabetes type 2 naturally. You saw for yourself the stories of others who reversed their diabetes type 2, stories by people who were threatened with lawsuits if they were revealed and ignored by the U.S. media. You've seen the proof from reputable medical schools that this deep sleep mechanism is the spark that ignites the diabetes reversing process inside you. Finally, you have the rock-solid guarantee that your one-time investment will bring back at least 10 times what you're paying today. Now, it's your turn. You can become one of these people who reverses diabetes type 2, and all you need to do is click below and get started. What's more, if you get started right now, I'll throw in these value-packed bonus products for free. The first bonus is your 30-day diabetes reversing meal and drink plan. Simply follow the plan to the letter to reverse your type 2 diabetes without even thinking about anything else. We know some people prefer to skip right to the food and drink plan, and you can take this plan with you anywhere. While you travel, to work, vacation, or just to use at home, it'll always be there for you. The second bonus is the Potent Aphrodisiac Foods and Plants Guide. Many of our members worry about low libido and the impact this has on their happiness, their relationship, and for many, feeling that they are somehow past it. Which is why in this guide you'll be getting the insider info on every libido-boosting nutrient there is for maximizing your desire and energy and reversing the clock by a good 10 or 20 years. This is a great way to spice up your love life and boost your happiness. This bonus retails for $47, but it's yours for free when you sign up for the Diabetes Deep Sleep Remedy. The third bonus is the Fat Melting Tonics ebook. After a good night's sleep, you'll want to wake up to a delicious fat-melting tonic to set you up for the day. These tonics were created to melt the most stubborn fat, increase energy levels, and lower blood sugar. The unique blends of tasty ingredients also cut your cravings, meaning there's even less chance of you falling off the wagon. To recap, you get the Diabetes Deep Sleep Remedy Full Blueprint, the Blood Sugar Busting video series, the 30-day Diabetes Reversing Meal and Drink Plan, and 2 more free bonuses, Potent Aphrodisiac Plants and Foods, and Fat Melting Tonics, worth over $1,000. And you're getting it all for the price of going out for lunch. What you'll get in return is simply priceless. The end of your diabetes type 2, new youthful energy, freedom, and years of happiness in your long life. All you need to do is click below and get started now. Remember, you have a full year to decide if the Diabetes Deep Sleep Remedy is for you. If you're not getting the results you like, contact us at any time for a full, no questions asked refund. We're here to help. And all you have to do is click below and fill in the form on the next page. Right now, you have 2 very different paths opening up before you. The first of those is staying on the path you're on. Your diabetes and the misery it brings with it will slowly erode your body and your mind. You'll constantly worry about what you eat, your high risk of heart attacks and stroke. Your energy levels will be depleted month by month. A few years down the line, you'll be lucky if you still have all your limbs. Your eyesight deteriorates until one day even recognizing your family members will be difficult for you. Not to mention the effects on your brain and the risk of lethal disease due to your weakened immunity. I know it's hard to hear, but it's the truth. A 2017 study found diabetes is the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. Diabetics are 2 to 4 times more likely to die from heart attacks. But it doesn't have to be that way. Instead, you can take the other path, where you sign up for the Deep Sleep Diabetes Remedy. This is your route to a happy, blissful life. A life where you're free of high blood sugar, free of the complications, the low energy, and the worries about food. All you need to do is click below to start your order. If you'd prefer to trust the diabetes industry instead of giving this system a shot, then that's fine. Maybe you're not ready for this incredible transformation yet. But you should know, the average diabetic spends over $280,000 on treatments in their life and never reverse their diabetes. And you already know about the sickening diabetes corruption. Please don't bury your head in the sand. It's far easier to reverse this deadly disease than most people would have you think. Thousands of others have done it. If they can, then you can. If you're ready to experience the life-transforming benefits that you can enjoy with the Diabetes Deep Sleep Remedy, then click below and let's get started. Remember, your order is guaranteed for 12 months from today. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I can't wait to help you reverse your diabetes type 2. It's been a real pleasure to share our discovery with you. I think you're ready to get started now. Click below and start reversing your diabetes type 2 today.